The sound of suitcases being dragged across hardwood floors mixed with the desperate cries of two newborn babies. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching my wife Kate stuff the last of her designer clothes into matching luggage sets that cost more than most people's monthly salary. "You can't be serious," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the twins wailing from the nursery down the hall. Kate didn't even look up. "I already withdrew everything from our joint accounts. Mother says you'll never amount to anything anyway. You're just ordinary Alex. I deserve better than this mediocre life." My legs went weak as I gripped the doorframe. Behind her, I could see bank statements scattered on our dresser, all showing zero balances. Our savings, our emergency fund, even the college accounts I'd started for the babies, everything was gone. "The babies need their mother," I managed to say. She finally turned to face me, her eyes cold and empty. "Mother has everything arranged. New identity, new life, new opportunities. You'll never find us, and even if you do, who's going to believe a worthless man like you over the Blackwood family?" As she wheeled her suitcases past me, stepping over the scattered papers that represented our destroyed financial future, I felt something shift inside my chest. Not just heartbreak, something much more dangerous. They thought they could destroy me and walk away rich. They were about to learn how wrong they were. If you're new to this channel, like this video and subscribe for your daily dose of chilling revenge tales. Years later, when they begged me not to destroy them completely, I would remember this exact moment, standing in that empty bedroom with my newborn twins crying and my entire life savings stolen by the two women I'd trusted most. But let me take you back to that morning when they made their biggest mistake. 6 months earlier, life had been everything I'd dreamed of. My name is Alex Thorne, and at 34 I thought I had it all figured out. Kate and I had been married for 3 years, living in the house I'd bought with my inheritance from my grandfather's engineering firm. As a project coordinator for a major construction company, I made decent money, but it was the investment properties and business partnerships I'd built that really set us apart. Kate came from money. The Blackwood family owned half the commercial real estate in our city. Her mother, Vivian Blackwood, had never approved of our marriage, but she'd seemed to tolerate me once she realized I wasn't after their money. I had my own. "Alex, darling, you work too hard," Kate would say, massaging my shoulders after long days managing construction sites. "When the babies come, I want you to slow down. Focus on us." I loved her for that. While other men complained about wives who demanded more expensive lifestyles, Kate seemed content with our comfortable upper-middle-class life. She drove a reliable SUV instead of a luxury car, chose modest jewelry over flashy pieces, and talked constantly about giving our children a stable, grounded upbringing. The twins came in late October, Harrison and Helena, perfect in every way. Kate struggled with postpartum depression, spending long hours at her mother's estate while I juggled work and newborn care. I understood. Her mother had resources: a live-in nurse, chef, and cleaning staff. It made sense for her to recover there. What I didn't understand were the phone calls. "No, Mother, I can't just leave him," I heard Kate whisper into her phone one evening while I was feeding Helena. "There are legal complications. The assets need to be transferred properly." I assumed they were discussing estate planning. The Blackwood family had complex trust structures, and with new grandchildren, it made sense they'd want to update their wills. I was such a fool. The signs were everywhere once I knew to look for them. Kate's laptop, always password protected now. Her sudden interest in our financial statements and investment portfolios. The way she'd grown cold and distant, especially after visits with her mother. "Alex, we need to discuss our financial future," she'd said just 2 weeks before she left. "Mother thinks we should consolidate our assets. Make everything more efficient." I'd agreed to meet with their family attorney, trusting that it was about creating better financial security for the twins. Instead, I signed documents I thought were updating beneficiaries and trust structures. Documents that, I would later discover, gave Kate legal access to accounts I'd built long before we ever met. The morning she left, I found those papers scattered on our dresser next to the emptied bank statements. My signature on transfer authorizations. My name on withdrawal forms I'd never seen before. My own handwriting on documents that had been altered after I'd signed them. Kate and her mother hadn't just stolen my money, they'd made me an unwitting accomplice in my own financial destruction. But as I stood there listening to my babies cry while their mother walked out with suitcases full of stolen luxury, I realized something that would change everything. They'd made one critical mistake. They'd underestimated exactly what kind of man they were destroying. The first month was hell. Twin newborns don't care that their mother abandoned them or that their father is surviving on credit cards because his bank accounts are empty. They need feeding every 2 hours, diaper changes, medical checkups, and constant attention. I hired Mrs. Julia, a retired pediatric nurse, to help during the day while I worked. She was expensive, money I didn't have, but I couldn't risk losing my job on top of everything else. At night, I walked the floors with Harrison while Helena slept, then switched when she woke up crying an hour later. But exhaustion breeds focus when you're angry enough. While the babies napped, I began building my case. Every financial document, every forged signature, every altered contract went into a secure digital file. I installed discrete recording software on my phone and computer. I documented every penny Kate had stolen and every method they'd used to do it. The investigation revealed the scope of their conspiracy. Vivian Blackwood had been planning this for over a year. Phone records showed daily calls between mother and daughter, starting just 2 months after the twins were born. Bank records revealed a pattern of test transfers. Small amounts moved in and out of our accounts to test the forged authorization documents. The most damning evidence came from Kate's social media accounts, which she'd forgotten to block me from. Photos of her at luxury resorts in the Maldives, designer shopping sprees in Milan, private jet flights to exclusive destinations. All funded by the money she'd stolen from her own children's father. But Vivian had made her own mistakes. Her property management company had been systematically underreporting rental income for years. Shell companies, offshore accounts, fabricated expense reports. The woman who'd called me ordinary was running a sophisticated tax evasion scheme worth millions. I spent my evenings researching financial crime law, learning about asset recovery procedures, studying the specific statutes they'd violated. I contacted forensic accountants, spoke with tax attorneys, and built relationships with white-collar crime investigators. Mr. Thorne, Detective Rodriguez had said during our third meeting, what you're describing constitutes organized financial fraud. If you can provide the documentation you mentioned, we're looking at federal charges. I provided the documentation. But I also began planning something more comprehensive than criminal prosecution. Vivian Blackwood had spent decades building her reputation as a pillar of high society. Kate had traded on the family name to gain access to exclusive circles and business opportunities. They'd stolen my money, but I was going to destroy their entire world. The business idea came to me during a 3 a.m. feeding session with Harrison. Luxury property management, specifically, ethical luxury property management with complete financial transparency. Everything Vivian's company pretended to be but wasn't. I mortgaged my house, borrowed against my remaining investment accounts, and used every contact I'd built during my construction career. Within 6 months, Thorne Luxury Properties had its first contract, managing a high-end residential complex whose owners had grown suspicious of their previous management company's financial reporting. That previous company was Blackwood Property Management. As my business grew, I made sure to be visible. Industry conferences, charitable events, business magazine interviews. I wanted Kate and Vivian to see exactly what the ordinary man they discarded was building. The bait worked perfectly. 18 months after Kate left, Thorne Luxury Properties managed 47 high-end properties across 3 states. The business model was simple: complete financial transparency, forensic-level accounting, and absolute trust between property owners and management. It was everything Vivian Blackwood's company wasn't. The construction industry connections I'd built over 15 years proved invaluable. Contractors trusted me, property developers knew my work quality, and investors appreciated my detailed reporting. While other property management companies cut corners and hid costs, I provided itemized statements and real-time financial tracking. But the real growth came from acquired properties, specifically, properties whose previous management had been questionable. Mr. Thorne, we've been reviewing our management company's reports, Mrs. Ashford had called to say. She owned a luxury apartment complex that Blackwood Property Management had handled for 8 years. There are some significant discrepancies in their accounting. We'd like to discuss transferring to your company. I'd made sure she discovered those discrepancies. Every property owner who'd worked with Blackwood received anonymous packages containing detailed financial analyses of their management reports. Professional audits that highlighted missing income, inflated expenses, and suspicious cash flows. All perfectly legal, all thoroughly documented, all devastating to Vivian's business. Within 6 months, Blackwood Property Management lost 60% of their client base. But destroying Vivian's business was just phase 1. Phase 2 involved becoming everything Kate had claimed I could never be. The business magazine cover was particularly satisfying: Alex Thorne, revolutionizing luxury property management through radical transparency. The article detailed my company's innovative approach and highlighted my personal story as a single father building an empire. I made sure Kate saw it. The charity gala was where I really set the hook. The Metropolitan Children's Hospital fundraiser, exactly the kind of high society event Kate used to attend with her mother. I bought a premium table, donated generously, and gave a speech about supporting children in need. As a single father raising twins, I'd said into the microphone, looking directly at the audience filled with people who knew my story, I understand how precious children are and how important it is to protect them from those who would harm them. The applause was thunderous. The social media coverage was extensive. And 3 days later my phone rang. Alex? It's Kate. Her voice was different. Uncertain. Gone was the cold confidence she displayed while stealing my life savings. I've been thinking about you. About us. About the children. I made a terrible mistake. I smiled as I started the recording app on my phone. Really? Tell me more about this mistake, Kate. Kate's return wasn't motivated by maternal instincts or genuine remorse. It was motivated by greed and the realization that she'd abandoned a man who'd become worth significantly more than she'd stolen. Our first meeting took place at an upscale restaurant downtown, her choice, naturally. She arrived wearing a designer dress I recognized from her social media posts, her hair professionally styled, her makeup flawless. The life of luxury she'd been living with my stolen money was evident in every detail. You look good, Alex, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. Success suits you. I kept my expression neutral, though inside I was documenting every word for the case I was building. The children ask about their mother, I lied smoothly. At 2 years old, Harrison and Helena barely remembered her face. Her composure cracked slightly. I think about them every day. Leaving them was the hardest thing I've ever done. But you did it anyway. Mother convinced me it was best for everyone. She said you'd never be able to provide the life they deserved. She said. Kate paused, clearly remembering the lines her mother had coached her to deliver. She said if I truly loved them, I'd leave them with you until you found someone better suited to be their mother. It was a masterful manipulation, painting abandonment as sacrifice, theft as love. And now? I asked, sipping my wine while the hidden recording device captured every word. Now I see what you've become. What you've built. Alex, you're not the same man I left. You're extraordinary. There it was. The real reason for her return, laid bare with surgical precision. Not love for her children, not genuine remorse, just the recognition that she'd discarded something valuable. Over the following weeks, Kate launched a careful campaign to reinsert herself into my life. She visited the house, cooing over Harrison and Helena like a loving mother rather than the woman who'd abandoned them as infants. She attended business functions with me, playing the role of supportive wife returning from a brief sabbatical. But most importantly, she began asking questions about my assets. Alex, darling, I should probably be more involved in our financial planning now that I'm back, she said one evening while we sat in my home office. The twins were asleep and she positioned herself behind my chair, running her fingers through my hair like she used to do. I mean, we're partners in this. We should make decisions together about investments, property acquisitions, business expansion. I let her believe she was being subtle. You're right, I agreed, pulling up our financial management software. Let me show you what I've built. The numbers on the screen made her intake of breath audible. Thorne Luxury Properties was worth more than she'd imagined, and my personal assets had grown exponentially. Property portfolio, investment accounts, business equity, everything she'd thought she was stealing when she left had multiplied into real wealth. This is incredible, Alex. We're rich. I'm rich, Kate. We're divorced. She laughed like I was joking. That's just paperwork. We can fix that. We can remarry, combine our assets properly. I've learned so much about business management while I was away. Mother taught me about investment strategies, asset protection, corporate structures. My blood chilled as I realized what she was really saying. Vivian had spent 2 years teaching her daughter how to steal more efficiently. What kind of asset protection? I asked carefully. Well, you know how vulnerable successful men can be to litigation, divorce settlements, business disputes. There are ways to structure assets so they're protected from complications. She was describing exactly the methods they'd used to steal from me initially, but on a larger scale. Mother has some excellent attorneys who specialize in that kind of strategic planning. They could help us make sure our wealth is properly protected. Our wealth. As if she'd contributed anything beyond theft and abandonment. But I needed more specific evidence for the criminal case I was building. That sounds interesting, I said. Maybe I should meet with these attorneys. Discuss our options. Her smile was radiant with triumph. She thought she'd convinced me. The meeting with Vivian's lawyers was a masterpiece of criminal arrogance. They laid out their strategy with the confidence of people who'd never been caught. Mr. Thorne, your wife has made some excellent points about asset vulnerability, Attorney Blackstone explained, spreading documents across the conference table. We recommend immediate restructuring of your business assets into protected entities. Offshore holding companies, complex trust structures, carefully managed shell corporations. For tax purposes, of course, added Attorney Mills with a knowing smile. Of course. They wanted me to move my assets into the same illegal structures Vivian used for her tax evasion schemes. Structures that would give Kate and her mother access to everything I'd built, just like before. The documents they presented were sophisticated forgeries designed to look like legitimate asset protection while actually transferring control to shell companies managed by Vivian's network. I asked detailed questions, recorded every answer, and requested copies of all documentation for review. 3 days later, I delivered everything to Detective Rodriguez and Federal Agent Morrison. Mr. Thorne, Agent Morrison said after reviewing the evidence, this is exactly what we needed. Conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, we have enough here to dismantle their entire operation. But I wasn't finished yet. Agent Morrison, I want to make sure they can't destroy evidence or flee before you arrest them. Can you give me 48 hours to ensure they're completely exposed before you move? He looked at Detective Rodriguez, who nodded slowly. 48 hours, Mr. Thorne. Make them count. I intended to. The timing had to be perfect. Criminal arrests, civil litigation, social exposure, and business destruction, all coordinated to ensure Kate and Vivian couldn't escape or recover from any single attack. I started with the business network. Every property owner who'd ever worked with Blackwood Property Management received a comprehensive report detailing Vivian's illegal financial schemes. Bank records, falsified tax documents, evidence of stolen rental income, everything presented with forensic precision and legal documentation. The report also included evidence that Kate had been actively involved in recruiting new clients for her mother's schemes, using her charm and family connections to lure victims into Vivian's web of financial fraud. Mr. Thorne, this is devastating, called Harold Ashford, one of Vivian's biggest clients. We're not just terminating our contract, we're filing criminal complaints and civil lawsuits. How many other people has that woman been stealing from? The answer was hundreds of property owners across 15 years. But the business destruction was only the beginning. Phase 2 targeted their social standing. I compiled a detailed presentation for the charity boards, country club memberships, and high society organizations where Vivian and Kate had built their reputations. Photos of Kate's luxury lifestyle funded by stolen money. Evidence of Vivian's tax evasion and fraud. Documentation of their conspiracy to abandon and financially destroy a new father and his twin babies. The Metropolitan Children's Hospital Board was particularly interested in the evidence that their major donors had been stealing from families with children. Mrs. Blackwood and her daughter are no longer welcome at any hospital events, Chairwoman Parker informed me. We're also investigating whether any of their donated money was illegally obtained. Every organization reached the same conclusion. The Blackwood name became synonymous with greed, fraud, and child abandonment. Phase 3 involved the media. Business Journal wanted an exclusive follow-up to their previous cover story. Alex Thorne, How a Father's Love Built an Empire While Criminals Tried to Destroy His Family. The article detailed everything. Kate's abandonment of newborn twins, the systematic theft of assets, Vivian's illegal business practices, and their recent attempt to steal even more money through fraudulent legal schemes. Social media amplified the story exponentially. #Justice for Alex became trending nationwide as people shared outrage over two wealthy women conspiring to destroy a devoted father and steal from innocent children. Phase 4 was personal. I arranged for Kate and Vivian to be served with civil lawsuit papers simultaneously, just hours before their criminal arrest warrants were executed. The lawsuits demanded recovery of all stolen assets plus damages for emotional distress, lost business opportunities, and intentional interference with family relationships. But more importantly, the public court filings detailed every crime they'd committed in language their former social circle could understand. I was having dinner with Harrison and Helena when my phone rang. "Alex, please, you have to stop this," Kate sobbed into the phone. "They froze all our accounts. Mother's being investigated by the IRS. Our lawyers say we could go to prison." "Could go to prison?" I repeated calmly while cutting up Harrison's chicken nuggets. "Kate, you're going to prison. The question is how long. Please, I'll do anything. I'll sign over everything, give back every penny, never contact you again. Just please don't destroy us completely. Helena reached for her sippy cup, and I handed it to her before responding. You destroyed yourselves, Kate. I just made sure everyone could see what you really are. Alex, please think about the children. They need their mother. It was her final manipulation attempt, and the most disgusting one yet. The children needed their mother 2 years ago when you abandoned them as newborns to steal money for luxury vacations. Now they need protection from people like you. Agent Morrison called an hour later. Both suspects are in custody, Mr. Thorne. We executed the arrest warrants simultaneously at their respective residences. Mrs. Blackwood was attempting to destroy financial documents when we arrived. Your ex-wife was booking flights to non-extradition countries. What are they being charged with? Conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, identity theft, and violation of federal asset protection laws. Mrs. Blackwood is also facing racketeering charges for her broader criminal enterprise. And the stolen assets? Full recovery plus penalties. Your children's financial future is very secure, Mr. Thorne. I looked at Harrison and Helena, happily eating their dinner and completely oblivious to the justice being served on their behalf. Thank you, Agent Morrison. Justice was all I wanted. 2 years later, the transformations were complete. Vivian Blackwood received 12 years in federal prison for financial fraud and tax evasion. Her property management empire was dismantled, her assets seized, and her reputation permanently destroyed. The woman who'd called me ordinary was now known throughout the business community as a common criminal who'd stolen from families and children. Kate received 8 years for conspiracy and fraud, with additional civil penalties that ensured she'd never recover financially. The socialite who'd abandoned her babies for luxury lifestyle was now serving time in the same federal facility where her mother was imprisoned. Their relationship didn't survive the mutual blame and recriminations of their legal defense strategies. Thorne Luxury Properties became the dominant property management company in the region, built on the foundation of absolute ethical standards and financial transparency. The business that started as revenge had evolved into genuine industry leadership. But the real victory was personal. Harrison and Helena, now 4 years old, were thriving in ways their abandoned mother could never have imagined. Harrison loved building things with blocks and toy tools, showing early signs of the engineering aptitude that ran in my family. Helena was fascinated by numbers and patterns, often helping me with simple business calculations that delighted her mathematical mind. They attended the best preschool in the city, lived in a beautiful home filled with love and stability, and had a father who'd proven that protecting family was worth any sacrifice. Daddy, why don't we have a mommy like other kids? Helena asked one evening while I read them bedtime stories. It was a question I'd prepared for but hoped wouldn't come so soon. Some families are different, sweetheart. Some kids have a mommy and daddy, some have just a mommy, some have just a daddy, and some have grandparents or other people who love them. What matters isn't who's in your family, it's how much love there is. Do we have lots of love? Harrison asked seriously. We have all the love we need, I assured them both. And we did. Mrs. Julia had become like a grandmother to the twins, helping with daily care and providing the nurturing female presence they needed. My business partner, Rachel Torres, had evolved from professional colleague to close friend and eventually to something more meaningful than either of us had expected. Rachel had her own children from a previous marriage, and our blended family gatherings were filled with laughter, chaos, and genuine affection. The twins adored her, and she treated them with the love and respect their biological mother had never shown. Alex, are you sure you're ready for this? She'd asked when our relationship became serious enough to discuss the future. Rachel, I've learned the difference between people who love you and people who use you. You've never asked me for anything except honesty and respect. That's worth everything. 6 months later, when People magazine featured our family in an article about successful single fathers finding love again, I made sure the photos showed exactly what a loving family looked like. The article mentioned that my ex-wife was serving time for federal fraud charges, but focused primarily on the positive transformation that had occurred in my children's lives. Kate saw the article from her prison cell, according to a letter she sent me a week later. Alex, I see you've moved on. I'm happy for you truly. I hope someday you can forgive me for what I did. I never responded. Forgiveness was for people who deserved it, and some betrayals were simply unforgivable. But as I sat in my home office that evening watching Harrison and Helena play while Rachel prepared dinner in our kitchen, I realized something important. I didn't need Kate's apology or Vivian's acknowledgement of their crimes. I didn't need them to understand the damage they'd caused or feel genuine remorse for their actions. Justice had been served through legal channels, my children were protected and thriving, and my life was filled with people who chose to love us rather than use us. The empire I'd built wasn't just financial, it was a fortress of love, security, and authentic relationships that no one could steal or destroy. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living better than the people who tried to destroy you. Harrison ran over to show me a tower he'd built with blocks, his face bright with pride and excitement. "Daddy, look how tall it is. It's even taller than you." I pulled him onto my lap and examined his creation with appropriate seriousness. "That's incredible engineering, son. What's it for?" "It's our house but bigger. So Helena and Rachel and Mrs. Julia and everyone we love can live there together." My throat tightened with emotion as I realized my 4-year-old son had just described the exact thing I'd spent 2 years building, a life big enough to hold everyone who mattered. "That sounds perfect, Harrison. Should we start planning it?" He nodded enthusiastically and ran to get paper for drawing blueprints. As I watched him go, I thought about the morning Kate had left with her suitcases full of stolen money, telling me I'd never amount to anything. She'd been wrong about everything that mattered. But she'd been right about one thing: I wasn't the same man she'd married. I was better. If this story resonated with you, it's because you understand that family loyalty shouldn't be a one-way street. Too many people have experienced betrayal from those they trusted most: spouses who steal and abandon, family members who manipulate and deceive, people who use love as a weapon for financial gain. Alex's story shows us that documentation and evidence are your best protection against family members who might be planning to betray you. Always maintain separate accounts they can't access, keep copies of important documents they can't alter, and trust your instincts when people's behavior changes. Most importantly, remember that your worth isn't determined by other people's opinions or treatment of you. The same qualities that make you vulnerable to manipulation, loyalty, trust, generosity, are the same qualities that make you capable of building something truly meaningful. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you protect yourself and rebuild your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, like this video and subscribe for your daily dose of chilling revenge tales where betrayal never goes unpunished and the good guys always win in the end. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is proving that you were always worth more than they realized.